Hey guys, welcome to today's class. Have fun.
This is Economics tutorial on demand by Patience Eaton Akpan. Concept of demand. Demand is referred to as the quantity of goods and services that consumers are willing and ready to purchase at a given price and at a particular period of time. Note that demand is backed up by the ability and readiness of consumer to pay for that goods or services, whereas want is a mere desire that is not backed up by the ability of the consumer and readiness to pay for that goods. Law of demand. The law of demand states that the lower the price of a commodity, the higher the quantity that will be demanded of that commodity, and the higher the price of the commodity, the lower the quantity that will be demanded of that commodity. This is to say that when the price of a product is high, the quantity demanded by consumers will be low, and when the price of a product is low, the quantity demanded by consumers will be high. There are two types of demand schedules: individual demand schedule and market or aggregate demand schedule. By explanation, individual demand refers to the quantity of goods or services which a or an individual, that is a single consumer, is willing and able to buy at a given price at a particular period of time. So, individual demand means a particular consumer demand. The table that shows the quantity of goods or services demanded by a consumer at a given price is called individual demand schedule. Here we have an example of individual demand schedule of a customer. On the table, we can see the price per tin of pig milk. We can also see the quantity demanded per week by Tina. When the price per tin was 150, demanded 50 tins of pig milk. When the price increases to 200, Tina's quantity demanded falls to 40 tins of pig milk. As the price continues to rise, Tina's demand for pig milk continues to fall. When the price is 350, quantity demanded by Tina was only 10 tins of pig milk. This is to say that the higher the price of tin milk, the lower the quantity that Tina demanded, and the lower the price, the higher the tins of pig milk that Tina demanded. We can also see here the example of an individual demand curve of Tina. The price of the milk on the y-axis and the quantity on the x-axis. Demand curve slopes downward from left to right, obeying the law of demand, that is, equal higher quantity demanded and high price equals lower quantity demand. Demand curve always slopes downward from left to right. Market or aggregate demand. Market or aggregate demand refers to the total quantity of a product that all consumers in the market are willing and able to purchase at different prices at a particular period of time. The table showing the total quantity of goods demanded by all consumers in the market at a given price and at a particular period of time is called market demand schedule. So the market demand schedule is the same as the individual demand schedule. The only difference will be that the heading will be market demand schedule. You may also decide to change the quantity demanded per week. Also, the Market demand curve will also look at as the individual demand curve, sloping from left to right, obeying the law of demand. Exceptional demand curve. From the law of demand, the normal demand curve slopes downward from left to right, but exceptional demand curve slopes in the opposite direction, as you can see in the diagram. The exceptional demand curve slopes upward from left to right instead of downward from left to right, opposing the law of demand. So, exceptional demand is a situation where less quantity of a product will be demanded at a lower price and more quantity at a higher price, thereby disobeying the law of demand. Reasons for exceptional demand curve. 1. Inferior goods. These are cheap and sometimes basic goods of necessity, like salt, maggi, which are necessary for cooking. Other are gari, rice, etc. A fall in the price of inferior goods does not guarantee a high demand, and also a rise in the price does not guarantee a fall in demand. Ostentatious goods. This is the situation where the consumers are attracted and assumes that the high price of a good indicates its high quality. Example, we have wrapper, bags, cars. This can also be seen as luxurious goods, whereby an increase in price may not lead to a decrease in quantity demanded. Vice versa. 3. We have commodities whose prices are expected to rise. This is a situation expect that the price of a product will rise or increase in the future than at present. Example, we have the prices of shares in the stock market when there are speculation that there is going to be a rise in the price of a particular share, etc. 4. We have future expectation of further fall in prices. This is a situation whereby consumers expect that the price of goods will likely decrease or fall in the future than at present. As such, less quantity are demanded even at a lower price. You can also see that in stock exchange market where shares, there's the speculation that there is going to be a fall in the prices of shares. Types of demand. We have 4 types of demand. 1. Derived demand. When the want for one good or services happen because of the want for another good or service. Example, the demand for palm oil for the production of soap is a derived demand because the demand of palm oil is derived from soap. 2. We have composite demand. This is the demand for a commodity or service that has more than one use, that is, it has multiple uses. Example, leather is used in making bags, belts, shoes, etc. An increase in the demand for bags will lead to an increase in the demand for leather, and a fall in the supply of belts and shoes. 3. Joint demand or complementary demand. This is the type of demand where 2 commodities are jointly demanded. Example, car and fuel, bread and butter, etc. An increase in the demand for car will lead to an increase in the demand for fuel. 4. We have competitive demand. This is the demand for commodities that are close substitute. Example, blueband and margarine, fish and meat, etc. An increase in the demand for blueband or fish will lead to a decrease in the demand for margarine or meat, respectively. Factors that determine demand for goods and services. 1. Price of commodity. Price of a good or services at a particular period of time determines the quantity that consumers are willing to purchase. So, the higher the price of a commodity, the lower the quantity demanded. As the law of demand says, except for exceptional demand curve situations. 2. Prices of other commodities like substitute or complementary goods. An increase in the price of a substitute, example, if the price of fish increases, this will lead to an increase in the demand for meat. So, when the price of meat is high, people will go for fish with lower price because it serves the same purpose. Whereas a fall in the price of complements will increase demand. For example, a lower price of car will increase the demand for fuel. The determinant of demand is income. An increase in disposable income enables consumers to be able to afford more goods. So the higher the consumer's disposable income, the more the quantity of goods or services the consumer will demand. Number 4, taste and preference. When the preference or desire of the public or consumers changes in favor of a product, it will increase the quantity demanded of that product. Likewise, if it changes in the other direction, it will decrease the quantity of demand for that product. For example, if people prefer the taste of Coke to Pepsi, the quantity demanded of Coke will increase, while that of Pepsi will fall. Number 5, price expectation. When people expect that the price of a goods or services will increase in the future, the more that goods is demanded, and when they feel that the price will fall in the future, they will demand less of that product. Number 6, we have numbers of buyers in the market or population. So the higher the number of buyers or consumers in a particular market, the higher the demand for goods and services. 7, government policy. For example, if the government sets a price floor for a particular good or services, people will consume or demand less for that product or services. The distinction between a shift of and movement along a demand curve. That is the difference between a shift of demand curve and a movement along demand curve. A shift of demand curve implies change in demand, or is also called change in demand, which is due to changes in other factors that determine demand except price. Other factors like income, taste and preference, prices of other commodities, etc. A change in demand means that the entire demand curve shifts either left or right, whereas movement along a demand curve refers to a change in quantity demanded, which is caused only by a change in price. In this case, the demand curve does not move, rather we move along the existing demand curve, as it can be seen here. In the graph, we can see a movement along the demand curve, where from P1 to P2, the arrow is showing a movement from P1 to P2 and from P2 to P3. This is only due to changes in price, while a shift of the demand curve, as shown in the graph here, is due to changes in other determinants of demand except price. So you can see that there is a shift from demand curve 1 to 2, which is a shift to the right. That we can say that demand is increasing, that there is shift in demand, increase. While when it shifts from D1 to D3, it shows a shift to the left, which is a decrease in demand. So when demand curve shifts to the right, it shows an increase, while when it shifts to the left, it shows a decrease. Concept of elasticity. Elasticity is the measurement or degree of responsiveness of demand to change in price. This concept explains how consumers react to changes in price. Elasticity of demand is denoted as ED. A formula for any calculation of demand elasticity is the percentage of change in the quantity that is in demand divided by the percentage change in the economic variable. That is, the economic variable can be price, it can be income, etc. Example here, if there is 30% increase in price, which results to about 60% fall in demand, calculate the percentage change in quantity demanded. So the formula here is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. This is because our price is given and our quantity also is given. So we know that this is concerned with price and quantity. So we simply divide the quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So our answer is 2%. There are 3 types of elasticity of demand. One is price elasticity of the demand. This is the degree of responsiveness of demand to a slight change in price. The formula is given as PED equals percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. 2 is income elasticity of demand. This is the degree of responsiveness of demand to slight change in income. It is given as IED equals percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income. So this economic variable is income. The first one was price. 3 is cross elasticity of demand. This is the degree of responsiveness of demand of a commodity B to changes in the price of commodity C. This usually occurs with goods that are close substitute. The formula CED equals percentage change in quantity demanded of B divided by percentage change in the price of C. Types of price elasticity of demand. We have elastic demand, 2 inelastic demand, and unitary elastic demand. We have elastic demand. Elastic demand is divided into 2. Perfectly elastic demand. This occurs when a slight change in price causes a big change in the quantity demanded. In perfectly elastic demand, a small increase in price results in fall in demand to zero, whereas a small decrease in price causes rise in demand to infinity. In such a case, the demand is perfectly elastic, as denoted by infinity. We can see the graph of a perfectly elastic demand under price elasticity of demand. On the y-axis we have price, and on the x-axis we have quantity demanded. We can see that in a perfectly elastic demand, the demand curve is represented as horizontal straight line. The graph shows that at price OP, demand is infinity, but a slight rise in price will result in fall in demand to zero. Also, at price P, consumers are ready to buy as much quantity of the product as they want, but a small rise in price will resist consumers to buy the products. It will be applied in cases. 2. We have relatively elastic demand. This occurs when the proportionate change in demand is greater than the proportionate change in the price of a product. That is, when the change in demand is greater than the change in the price of the product. The value of relatively elastic demand ranges between 1 to infinity, that is, greater than 1. For example, if the price of a product increases by 10% and the demand of the product decreases by 15%, then the demand could be relatively elastic because the change in demand is greater than the change in the price of the product. So we can see from the diagram that the demand curve of a relatively elastic demand is gradually sloping downward. From the graph, the proportionate change in demand from Q1 to Q2 is relatively larger than the proportional change in price from P1 to P2. Relatively elastic demand has practical application as demand for many products respond in the same manner with respect to changes in their prices. Inelastic demand. Inelastic demand is also divided into two. We have perfectly inelastic demand. This occurs when the quantity demanded remains constant at whatever price. So the numerical value is 0. For example, if the demand for essential goods like salt, its demand does not change with change in price. Therefore, the demand for essential goods is perfectly elastic. So we can see the difference between perfectly elastic demand and perfectly inelastic demand. The difference is that in perfectly elastic demand, the numerical value is infinity, while that of perfectly inelastic demand is 0. In perfectly elastic demand, when there is a small change in price, consumers will not buy the goods. But when there is a slight fall in the price of the goods, consumers will buy to infinity. But in perfectly inelastic, at whatever price, the consumer will always demand the same quantity. Whether the price increases or decreases, the consumer will always order the same quantity. B. Relatively inelastic demand. This is when the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in the price of a product. The value of a relatively inelastic demand is less than 1. For example, if the price of a product increases by 40% and the demand for the product decreases by 10%, then the demand is called relatively inelastic demand. From the graph, we can see that the demand curve of a relatively inelastic demand slopes steadily or rapidly. From the graph, the change in demand from Q1 to Q2 is relatively smaller than the change in price from P1 to P2. Relatively inelastic demand has a practical application as demand for many products respond in the same manner with respect to changes in their prices. The difference between relatively elastic demand and relatively inelastic demand is that relatively elastic demand value is greater than 1, while that of relatively inelastic demand is less than 1. Another difference is that in relatively elastic demand, when there is a small change in the price of the product, there is a greater decrease or fall in the demand for that product. Whereas in relatively inelastic demand, when there is a large change or increase in the price of that product, there is a small decrease in demand. Calculation example. Here we have the price of pig milk per tin, and we also have the quantity demanded per week. At price 150, 50 quantity is demanded. At the price 200, 40 quantity is demanded. Calculate the price elasticity of demand and determine the type of price elasticity of demand. Solution is given. The change in the price of pig milk is P1 minus P. So we can see that P is the 150, which is the first price, and P1 is 200. So a change in price is equals to current price minus old price, which is 200 minus 150, and our change in price equals 50. We also calculate a change in quantity. Change in quantity of pig milk here is 50 and 40. So current quantity is 40 and old quantity is 50. So we have change in quantity as minus 10. So the price elasticity of demand for pig milk is change in quantity demanded over change in price times the old price divided by the old quantity. So we have 10 divided by 50. So you can see that the minus sign is not necessary. So we have 10 over 50 times our old price as 150 and divide by quantity 50. So our price elasticity of demand is 0.6, which is less than 1. So in this, we can say that the demand for pig milk is relatively inelastic because it is less than 1. If it was greater than 1, it will be relatively elastic demand. So remember that we say that we have three types of price elasticity of demand. 1. Elastic demand, 2. Inelastic demand, and unitary elastic demand. So we are going to be explaining unitary elastic demand. Unitary elastic demand occurs when a proportionate change in demand equals a proportionate change in the price of the product. The value of unitary elastic demand is equals to 1. This means that when there is a change in the percentage of change in price equals to the same percentage of change in quantity demanded. Here we can see the graph of unitary elastic demand. The demand curve for unitary elastic demand is rectangular, hyperbola. From the graph, a change in price P1 to P2 produces the same change from Q0 to Q2. Therefore, the demand is unitary. That is, the same percentage change in price is the same percentage change in quantity demanded. You can also go through the summary of the types of price elasticity of demand that we have here. The next one is types of income elasticity of demand. So also remember that we say that we have three types of elasticity of demand. That is price elasticity of demand, which we have explained. Now we are going to income elasticity of demand, and then we enter cross elasticity of demand. We said that income elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of demand to a small change in income, which the formula was percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income. There are two types of income elasticity of demand. That is positive income elasticity and negative income elasticity. Positive income elasticity occurs when an increase in income brings about an increase in demand, while negative income elasticity occurs when an increase in income brings about a decrease in demand, and that can be seen in inferior goods, because when incomes of consumers increases, they may not like to go for inferior goods. It's only when their income is very low that they will prefer inferior goods because of their prices. There are no types of cross elasticity of demand. So we go down to the importance of concepts of elasticity of demand. The first one is their importance to producers. 1. We say that pricing decision. We say that the concept of elasticity of demand helps businesses in pricing decision in order to achieve their pricing objectives. If the demand for a product is inelastic, can charge a higher price, while if the demand for a product is inelastic, producers can charge low price for it in order to get maximum profit. Second, output decision. We say that the knowledge of elasticity of demand is crucial in determining the output level, that is, the quantity of goods and services to produce that is equal to the demand for that goods. 3. Demand forecasting. The knowledge of income elasticity is necessary for demand forecasting of producible goods in the future. This is because producers can determine the effect of changing income levels on the demand for their product. So producers know that when the income of consumers increases, demand will increase. This helps producers to forecast future demand. 4. Determination of prices of joint products. Producers fix the price of each joint product on the basis of its elasticity of demand. Example, cotton and cottonseed, wheat and straw. If cotton and wheat have an inelastic demand, producer can charge high price for it, whereas cottonseed and straw, their byproduct respectively, with elastic demand, will be priced low. Pricing discrimination by monopolists. The pricing of the same product in different markets is also determined by the knowledge of elasticity of demand in each market. Market with inelastic demand for their products, monopolists fix high price, and market with elastic demand, the monopolists will fix a low price for that product. Elasticity also help in determining the prices of factors of production. Factors of production with inelastic demand is priced high, and factors with elastic demand is priced low. Importance of the concept of elasticity of demand to government. The knowledge of elasticity of demand helps government in determining its policies. Government consider the elasticity of demand for a product before putting price control on the product. 2. Elasticity of demand helps government in adopting the policy protection or protection policy. So, protection or subsidy is only given to industry whose products have elastic demand, while industry that their products have inelastic demand are not given protection or subsidies. 3. With the knowledge of elasticity of demand, government is able to determine its gains from international trade. Exported goods with inelastic demand is charged high price. That is, government will always make sure that the goods that are being exported to other countries are inelastic in demand, so that they can sell them at high prices, while imported goods with inelastic demand is obtained from the other country at a low price. And also, to import other goods, in order to gain, they will import goods from other countries that have elastic demand in that country, so that they can buy that goods at a lower price. The concept of price elasticity also helps government in determining the effect of devaluation or depreciation of a currency on its export earnings. So we also have the importance of it to consumers. It helps consumers in their buying decision. Goods with highly elastic demand, consumers respond very drastic to little changes in price. That is, they make drastic changes in quantity demanded. These are luxury goods that consumer feels that they can do without, or goods with plenty substitutes. While goods with highly inelastic demand, consumer respond very little to changes in price. These are goods of necessity that consumer feels they cannot do without. Example is food and housing, or goods with fewer substitutes. Example, water. So it helps consumer in their buying decision. When the price of a goods increases, they will buy if the good is a good of necessity, but if it is a luxury good, the consumer may refuse to buy the goods if the price increases.
I hope the class was interesting. If you have questions, please drop them in the comment section or send us an email. We will love to help you further. See you in the next class.